It's different.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Christ-Centered Living. I am your host, Jamaica Baker, and I got a quick word for you guys on today. Now, this one might be for the new believers. It may be for the seasoned believers, too, if you don't really read your word like that and you just take what everybody else says. Come check this out. So I used to work at the Home Depot. And at the Home Depot, one of my job duties was to create the store schedule. And for about the first year, I didn't really understand how I was supposed to write the schedule. And I just did what everybody told me to do because I was following their instructions. About a year in, after learning and kind of getting my own rhythm and figuring things out, all of a sudden it's like everything opened up because I took the time to learn for myself and use what people had given me, but also learn it for myself. And what happened was I was able to clearly understand why we wrote the schedules the way that we wrote them, how people were doing them in the wrong way, so I could make the adjustments that I needed to make that I was following after them, but knew that now this is not how it's supposed to be done, so I need to do it this way. But the cool thing about it was it didn't even just help me with the schedule. It helped me to understand the store as a whole. So why we hired the way that we hired, why certain people were put on the floor at the times they were put on the floor, who we needed to bring in. And it helped me to understand the dynamics of the store and the ability for them to provide the customer service that needed to be provided, all based on how I wrote the schedule and how things were done on that end. Now, for some reason, this experience caused me to think about the Word of God. Because for years, many of us have just taken what people have said and not taken the time to learn it for ourselves. We've taken their word, we've lived the word according to what they've told us, but we don't really have a clear understanding for ourselves on what the word of God is really saying. This is an issue because it can cause us to be confused. It can cause us to be frustrated. It can cause us to be doing things that God did not tell us to do or not doing things that God told us to do. And in this day and time, you have to know the word of God for yourself. Now, 2 Timothy 2:15 tells us to study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Now, yes, Paul was talking to Timothy, who was a pastor, who at the time needed to know the word of God so he can teach it to those that God had called him to lead. However, that does not mean that it does not apply to us today. Now, this puts the responsibility back on the believer. It's our responsibility to open up the word of God and to study it, that we may not be fooled and we may not be deceived when people say things that don't align with the word of God. It's not just the responsibility of our pastor or for our Bible study leaders to teach us the word. We have to take some responsibility to learn the word of God for ourselves. Now, there are people in the Bible called the Bereans, and you can find that in Acts chapter 17, verses 10 through 15. And the Bereans really stand out because when Paul came to minister the word of God, they were open and they were excited about the word. However, they also used discernment and they examined if what Paul was teaching was truly the word of God. Now, this is really important because for the Berean people, they practiced an openness to hear what Paul had to say and an eagerness to hear the word, but they also used discernment and scrutiny to examine the scriptures at the time, the Old Testament, to make sure that Paul was teaching about the Messiah that the word of God was speaking about. And as a result of that examination and that discernment, many of the Bereans believed. So what does that mean for us today? Let's be like the Bereans. Let's practice objectivity by basing our beliefs on the text of the Bible, not just tradition, not just popularity, and not just emotions. And next, let's maintain a teachable spirit. Now, this means that we're keeping the humility to listen to teaching, but we're also verifying its accuracy against the word of God. And last, you want to practice daily discipline by committing to regular ongoing study of the word of God. Get you to a church that is teaching the word of God. Partner up with an individual who knows the word and can help guide you through the word and teach you how to study to understand the word of God. Because you don't know what you don't know. So that is my Bible study moment for you all on today. I encourage you to get in your word and study your word so you know what God has for you. And if you're in the Hampton Roads area, please join me at Christ Church Ministries of Hampton, where our founder is Bishop Robert A. Baker Sr. and my pastor is Pastor G. Patricia Baker. Look, the word is being poured out and we are learning the word of God, as you can see. Follow me for more Bible study moments on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Christ Centered Living. You all have a blessed rest of your week.